Alright guys, so you just came from the theater and just saw Spider-Man No Way Home, and you absolutely loved it, right? Because most people do, and you are excited to read more Spider-Man. Now, I've done countless Spider-Man lists, including where to start reading Spider-Man, which if you haven't seen, go check out my video, and that's a good starting point of where to pick up Spider-Man. However, today I'm doing something a little bit different. What if you wanted to pick up an omnibus of Spider-Man? If you don't know what an omnibus is, those are huge, big, hardcover, almost always, books where it contains usually about 30, sometimes 25, usually 30 plus, or sometimes even 40 plus issues. And most times it is going to be a run on one writer. Sometimes it's multiple writers if it's a big event story. But today we're going to talk about omnibuses of Spider-Man, and 5 that I really recommend picking up, especially if you're in the mood for different style Spider-Mans, which might be after watching No Way Home. So let's get into it. I'm going to start off my list with the oldest, but one of the newest ones I've started to read on my list, Spider-Man by Stern. Now, this is classic Spider-Man. This is old school Spider-Man, and it's not for everyone. So the dialogue is definitely outdated, but it is actually pretty charming and fun in a lot of ways, and it kind of has that balance between this is after school for Peter, so this is not when he's too young, and yet he's not a full-on, like, adult life, 29 years old, just dealing with all the garbage that we have to deal with. So it's a nice kind of mixture of the two. It also has a lot of classic villains, and one of the coolest things is the Hobgoblin, who is the kind of main villain in this. And if you're into more of a classic Spider-Man story, and it's not as serious, though I'd say right now, it's shaping up to be a little bit more serious by the end with Hobgoblin, I think this is one of the best omnibuses to pick up. I'm really enjoying it. It's very easy breezy type of read so far. And so if you're into that and you want more classic Spider-Man, I believe these were in the 80s, check out Stern. It's definitely worth buying, and it's available right now, which is a big plus. So you can go pick it up on Amazon, in stock trades, cheap graphic novels, organic price books, or you could just go to your local comic shop and ask them to order this. This is 30 plus issues of Spider-Man. Go pick that up. My next choice is actually going to be Ultimate Spider-Man Miles Morales. Now, this is if you want something a little bit different than Peter Parker. This is after the events, and sorry if this is a spoiler, of Peter Parker's death in the Ultimate Universe. And after he dies, which by the way is one of my favorite deaths, I actually did a couple of videos on that, we get Miles Morales. Now this is kind of his origin story. Now you've probably seen it if you've seen Spider-Verse and things like that, but to me this still resonates with me because this is what I was growing up reading, and I really liked Miles Morales' origin story here. It's also great to see, you know, a character so different than Peter yet still capture that spirit. Miles Morales feels more of a different type of awkward, more of a kind of enclosed, like doesn't really want to be that Peter Parker. Like Peter Parker was more the traditional nerd, and Miles is more the modern nerd, and I really like the difference. Also, Miles Morales has a very different set of powers at times that make him very cool and different. So the first, I'd say 2 to 3 arcs for Miles, which covers most of the Ultimate Spider-Man collection here, is excellent. It starts Peter off a little bit at the end there, and I didn't love it, but everything with his origins, his uncle, Venom, I thought all of that was great and well worth reading. Now, this collection is out of print currently, but you could probably still find it for about cover price if you look on eBay. I found a few. However, they are reprinting it in July, I believe, and that is very much worth going on and pre-ordering right now and checking this out, because if you're a Spider-Man fan or a Miles Morales fan, this is how he began, and it's pretty great, so go check it out. My third choice is going to be Spider-Man Untold Tales, and I really think this is great for people who really never read Spider-Man. These are tales of him growing up and the early years of Spider-Man, and they're very casual, very fun. I've read about half of this omnibus, and I'm digging it. It is kind of just that laid-back style Spider-Man storytelling where you know that it's almost like a Saturday morning cartoon. What's really nice, though, is it has the old vibes of Spider-Man from the 60s and 70s, but it's modernized. It doesn't feel quite as old or heavy-handed like exposition. It's definitely better than I actually expected. The art is also kind of this really cool mix of old school look but modernized art. Really good. And it actually came out for people who are probably watching this to kind of get you into Spider-Man, like the Untold Tales, because at this time, Peter Parker has been an adult for years in the 616, so this was made for people to get into the character. So I think it's a good starting point. It's actually really cheap on multiple websites, including in-stock trades. I think it's like $40, and it's 25 plus issues. So go check this out. It's pretty damn good, and I think a lot of fans of Spider-Man just general, like Saturday morning cartoon Spider-Man, would really enjoy this. And now we're going to get into a really great run for me, and this is the Spider-Man Omnibus by JMS. That's right, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name because I will fuck that up. So with that, I'm going to put a picture here. You can see his real name. It's J. Michael Starsinski, I think, but I just probably fucked it up. But anyway, this is a great omnibus to pick up. Now, volume 2 is really easy to get, so I suggest getting it now, so that way you can have it in your collection. But the first volume is getting reprinted in 2022 for the celebration of 60 years of Spider-Man. I think this is very much worth reading. This is Peter Parker's first, for me, like, kind of adult feeling book. This is when he becomes a teacher. This is when he deals with a lot of adult issues. This is where he deals with his own, like, almost dying, and sometimes actually dying, type of storyline. It's definitely not for everyone. It does change the mythos a bit, adds more supernatural elements. But with No Way Home, you have a lot of supernatural elements in there. So I think this is a cool jump-on point for a lot of people. It is actually the first Spider-Man comic, besides one other, that I got into when I was a kid. This was coming out when I was about 11 years old, and it really resonated with me. And now I am going to pick up the Volume 1 Omnibus when it comes out, I believe, in March or April, or maybe in the summer of 2022. However, I'm mentioning this now because Volume 2 is still available, and chances are that will become hard to find. So you might want to grab it. 1 and 2 will complete the entire run. And again, I can't suggest this enough. While you're watching this, it might be a little too early, but you can go pre-order this, and I suggest that. But if not, pick it up when it comes out in the summer of 2022. It is very much worth reading. Deals with a lot of heavy moments, and also just Spider-Man fun. And last but not least is one of my favorite Spider-Man stories of all time, if not my favorite. It might actually be. It's definitely my favorite run. There might be single stories out there that resonate with me just a tad bit more, but as far as like a main run, this is absolutely my favorite. So with this, it is Ultimate Spider-Man by Michael Brian Bendis. And I have to say, this run really just always will be one of my favorite because it is what got me into the character as a kid. It is Peter Parker definitely in his teenage years. This is him dealing with high school drama a lot, but in a good way, in a way that probably anybody can relate to, even if you're not in high school anymore. I was not even in high school when I read this. I was in middle school, and I got into high school, and I still loved it. And then as an adult, I'm rereading it again, and I'm about halfway through the run before Peter, meets his demise. If you didn't know, that's very old spoilers. And it's just as fantastic. I think what really Michael Brian Bendis does is capture the human element really well and give us a Peter Parker that we can relate to, even when he's stressed out, kind of a bully sometimes and an asshole. He's still a kind-hearted guy who always tries to protect and do the right thing, and that's what Spider-Man is. Also, it's a lot of reimagining of villains, storylines like the Clone Saga done right, things like Venom in an interesting and new way. Bringing in old villains in a new way that I did not expect, and really sad moments with some of the older villains that died in the old universe in a kind of a goofy way, die in this in a way that I did not expect. So if you want Spider-Man in a different kind of more modernized early 2000s, so if you don't know, early 2000s was a very different time period than it is today for teenagers, but I think it captures that early 2000 well. The baggy clothes, the slight slang, people speaking really quick, things like that. And I really, really enjoyed this run. So, saying that, and why I'm suggesting this so much is because not only do I think it's one of the best runs, it's one of the best origins told for Spider-Man, and it comes out on January 4th, which is literally like 2 weeks away. So this is really well worth it. I think it's 40 issues. This is a monster, and very much worth buying. Okay, and so you listen to all my jibber-jabbering about all these great series. What series do you want? What series are you interested in reading? And what omnibuses maybe do you want for Spider-Man? These are the 5 that I suggest. Does anybody else out there suggests a different omnibus, maybe that I didn't mention, or maybe I didn't read yet, related to Spider-Man. It could be Spider-Gwen, which I like her as a character, didn't really love her run, so I didn't mention that. But are there any other runs? Maybe there's ones that I missed that you really enjoy that you think people should read as an omnibus. List those below, and I hope everybody out there who enjoy No Way Home picks up at least one of these, at least Ultimate Spider-Man. Come on, guys. And everybody else, have a great day.